What do people gain from all their labors, at which they toil under the sun? Generations come and generations go, but the earth remains forever. We come and we go. The earth remains, but we come and we go. The sun rises and the sun sets and hurries back to where it rises. The wind blows to the south and returns to the north. Round and round it goes, ever returning on its course. All streams flow into the sea, yet the sea is never full. To the place the streams come from, there they return again. All things are wearisome, more than one can say. The eye never has enough of seeing, nor the ear its fill of hearing. What has been will be again, and what has been done will be done again. There is nothing new under the sun. Is there anything of which one can say, look, this is something new? It was here already long ago. It was here before our time. No one remembers the former generations, and even those yet to come will not be remembered by those who follow them. What depressing words from King Solomon. What seriously depressing, negative, hopeless words. Yet, I feel like that sometimes. Literally, I can, and this is not a complaint or a moan, but literally a couple of days ago, Vicky and I, we were in the bedroom, and I just turned and I just said to her, I am done with this cruel, cruel world. I hate it. I hate this cruel, cruel world. You look at the situation and I'm not, many of you will know if you've been on my Instagram or Facebook or whatever it is, I don't post on it, I don't go on it, I don't use social media. I have this love-hate relationship with social media. I love to hate it. I just find the hypocrisy level too high for me. And that doesn't mean that we shouldn't. I'm not saying I've got the right philosophy to it of just avoiding it and staying off it, because I know some of you post on it, and I know some of you put some good stuff out there, and that's good, and that's not necessarily bad at all. But I kind of struggle with some of the hypocrisy. Even with the Ukraine situation, you kind of hear all the celebrities coming out, and I just think, yeah, what about all the atrocities that have been going on in China for the last 30, 40 years? The people that are being oppressed there that no one's talking about, and round the world, there's issues going on everywhere, and suddenly there's a bandwagon that everyone likes to jump on, and I hate that. But notwithstanding all of that, the situation in Ukraine, I can't help but I feel so. It sounds glib, doesn't it, to say I feel so sad over it? They're not the right words, are they? So I apologize for those words. I hope what I'm getting at is coming out. You can't help but look at it. The point I'm making is the cruel, cruel world that we live in. It's awful, painful. I often feel like I want to leave. I don't want to be here. Being a Christian and the idea of heaven is wonderful. And let me explain. I need to say this, right? And this is that what I've just said was not to be negative or to be, oh, woe is me, or I'm depressed, or I've got problems, or I need help. None of that. And what I'm about to say is not to say, oh, look at me, or anything like that. I feel like I'm in the best days of my life. So it's not that I'm depressed, it's not that I'm down, it's not that I'm regretting my life or anything I've done. The life I live now, I chose. I chose the life that I live now. I made decisions years ago, 20 years ago, 15 years ago, 10 years ago, 5 years ago. And where I am is come through decisions that I've made. Some of it is, some of everyone's life has been blown about and you end up in situations. But many people would say, well, if you said, well, the job you're doing, why are you doing that? And they wouldn't, not many would say, well, I chose that. That was something I planned, I wanted to do. Even people who have worked for years, I know lots of medics that actually they say, I'm in it because my dad wanted me to do it, or my mum wanted me to do it, or because of this, or because of that. And very few you hear say, it's because I chose this. I prayerfully went to God and I sought Him about my life, and I made decisions about what I want to do with my life. And I made them, I counted the cost, and I made those decisions and I made those choices. And I feel like that in these days of my life. I feel like I'm living the days that I chose I wanted to live. And so I'm not complaining or moaning. I'm getting across the fact of, if you get up and you preach every week that life's wonderful and it's great and there's never any problems or any issues that we have to face or challenges, or there's never any moments like with Solomon. And you look at life and you just think, it's all meaningless, it's all cruel, it's depressing. You clean up and what happens? It gets dirty. Yeah, the kids, yeah, exactly. Let's blame the kids, come on. Those who got kids, let's blame the kids. The kids come and mess it up, don't they? They just come in and they mess it up. And we chose to have kids. I was persuaded to choose to have kids, but I went with it and I did it and I don't regret it. And I don't regret any of the decisions that I've made with my life. I love it and I feel like I'm in a great place. I feel like I've got what the tools that I need to handle the challenges that come. But that even with all of that, even with everything, you could have everything and there's still that utter meaningless. Solomon had everything. He had everything. And yet he was depressed and down and he felt meaningless. And I know there's a bigger story to Solomon. There's some things about Solomon's life that I've not got time to go into today that would have been a factor in that. And if we could maybe get the props up. I asked for a table. Oh, thanks, Io. Cruel, cruel world. Seriously, is that the best table we've got? I'm getting up to preach, man. Is that? No, I'm playing with you. Let me move it round here because I think it's going to work better on that side. Oh, thanks, Ian. Mate, what a quality job. This is exactly what I wanted. We forgot the lighter. Someone's having a laugh here, aren't they? Okay, yeah, I don't regret it. But listen, for the sake of time, in fact, the life I chose, really, this sermon I'm about to preach is a sermon that was preached to me many, many years ago, over many, many years. This wasn't one sermon. This is a sermon that's been preached over maybe 5, 10, 15 years that I've heard, that have been taught. And so whilst I'm going to attempt to preach it in the next 30 minutes, 25 minutes or so, it's clearly not possible because there's so much I'd want to say to you and I'd want to talk to you about, and you'd get fed up in the end. You'd say, listen, I need my tea and all of that type of stuff. But for the sake of it, let's go for it. And for the sake of time, let's go straight to the answer. So just go straight to what the answer is. Because those verses that are read were from the beginning of Ecclesiastes. An incredible book. If you've never really delved into it much, I know some of you, many of you read the Bible, some of you not so much, but let me encourage you to read the book of Ecclesiastes. But before you get really depressed and you start drawing for the tablets and the knife and stuff like that, you know what I mean? And you feel like that's it, it's the end. Yep, I'm decided. Keep going to the end, because the meaning of Ecclesiastes is actually only found at the very, very end of the book. He actually explains it in the last few verses. So we're just going to jump straight there. We'll go through, leave the other stuff. I'll let you guys read that. But chapter 12, verse 9, not only was the teacher wise, but he also imparted knowledge to the people. He pondered and searched out and set in order many proverbs. Solomon wrote much of the book of Proverbs. Not all of it, but much of it. The teacher searched to find just the right words, and what he wrote was upright and true. And now listen to this. Listen to this. The words of the wise are like goads. Goads is like a cattle prod. So imagine this is a cattle prod, and I'm poking my kids when they're being naughty, and I'm encouraging them to get up off the backside and clean the living room because it's a mess from last night, and to tidy your bedroom because it's actually good for you to tidy your bedroom. I've told you that, haven't I? It's good for you to tidy your bedroom. And I'm goading them, do this, do that, do the other. I'm goading them. The words of the wise are like goads. They're collected sayings like firmly embedded nails. I love my props. Like firmly embedded nails. You see, the culture of today, right? If you're this piece of wood, it's not a brilliant analogy, but you'll see why I'm using a piece of wood for this analogy in a few seconds. But if you're this piece of wood, right, the culture of today wants to be free, to go anywhere, to do anything, to roam around, to choose its direction, to choose its position. One day it might want to be like that. The next day it goes, well, actually, I've seen someone else in there like that, so I want to be like that today. And I've seen someone else in there like that, and I just want to spin. I just want to spin round like a bottle or whatever it is, But the words of the wise are like nails, firmly embedded nails. I hope this works. That's what the words of the wise are like. They're like firmly embedded nails. Oh, you have got to be joking me. You have got to be joking me. I'm not having that. I am not having that. Might have to do a risk assessment here. Let me turn it around this way so if the nail goes, here we go, it's going in. The words of the wise are like nails. Is that moving? That's not moving anywhere. In fact, wherever that table goes, that piece of wood is going with it. It's fixed to the table. It's not going anywhere. The words of the wise are like firmly embedded nails given by one shepherd. That shepherd is God. His name is Jesus. These words were written 1,000 years before he rode into Jerusalem to declare that he was the King of Kings and the Savior of the world. The words of the wise, given by one shepherd, are like firmly embedded nails that fix you firmly, attached, immovable. And the thing about that is there's a cost to that. Because I can't just do what I want. There's times I've wanted to leave here. There's times I've wanted to leave this area. There's times I've wanted to do so many different things. But I'm nailed. I'm nailed to it. I'm nailed to the calling that God has placed on my life that I chose to answer. I'm nailed to it. I can't move. I don't have a choice in the matter. Because I made that choice years ago and now I'm nailed to it. Be warned. My son, of anything in addition to them. Of making many books, there is no end, and much study wearies the body. Let me tell you, people are always talking about new ways to success. We've discovered, we've come up with a new way of doing it. We've realized we were wrong all these years, and now it's new. This is the way we need to do it. We've researched, we've studied, and I'm not saying, listen, I research and study a lot. I read a lot. I've read hundreds of books over the last 20 years, hundreds and hundreds of books, and so I like to keep myself abreast of what's going on, but I'm nailed. I'm nailed. I'm not moving. I can't go anywhere. I'm nailed. And if it don't align with that, it don't align with my life. I'm fixed and I'm nailed. And don't believe them. Because the right ways right? The right ways. God created the earth, the heavens, and everything in it. And the ways of that God created right at the beginning. In fact, it was created, the ways were created before the beginning because the ways are God's ways. And so they never, ever change. There are no new ways of doing things. There's only the old ways, and it does it a disservice to call it the old ways because we like the new. But this warning here is don't get obsessed with the new. You know, I like to preach ways of being successful, and I'm going to stand on here because I like the idea of standing on here. And being successful and all of that kind of stuff, right? But here's the simple fact of it. I love watching the airplane programs, Air Crash Investigation. Let me warn you, don't watch that when you're about to go on a flight. You don't. They're great programs, I love them, right? But when you're about to fly, don't watch them. Seriously, they are bad programs to watch when you're about to fly. I made that mistake in the summer. But anyway, and I'm watching them, and there was one episode in particular, right? You think about all the technology and everything that goes into getting a plane off the ground. A plane weighs the equivalent of 3 detached houses. A jumbo jet. 3 detached houses, and that thing floats in the air. It literally floats in the air. It weighs about 90 tons. 90 tons, and it floats in the air. So think of all the technology and the research and everything that's gone into that, right? And there was one episode, and it's flying down the runway, and and then they say rotate when it gets to the right speed, and then I feel like I could fly a plane. I've watched that many episodes of it. And you say rotate, and off the plane goes, and it starts to fly. And this one, it started to rise, and then it's hitting difficulties. And they reached that point of no return because they couldn't abort by this point. It was too late, and it crashed, and literally everyone died. And I mean, it happens. I know it's a sad thing to say, but it happens, right? You know what the issue was? They hadn't set the flaps. Simple as that. They hadn't set the flaps. The plane to take off or land, the flaps have to be set because it's going so slow, the wings will stall. The plane cannot generate enough lift at the speed that it takes off at. So they have to set the flaps. The flaps generate more lift and the plane takes off. And then when it's flying, they take the flaps off because that increases aerodynamicity. And then the plane can, it's more aerodynamic, it's more fuel efficient. You get the idea, yeah? But to take off, they've got to set the flaps. They didn't set the flaps. The plane crashed, everyone died. And this is the thing about life, right? You can put in all the good things and all the right things to make your life successful. They take time. But sadly about life, one mistake can cost you everything. One bad decision can cost you everything. And that is a message that we need to understand, we need to adhere to. It's the kind of thing your mum and dad tell you when you were a kid, isn't it? Don't mess with the electricity. Why? Because you touch that once, it can kill you. Once, not twice. You don't get a second chance with that more often than not. Once can kill you and has done to many, many people. And now all has been heard. Here is the conclusion of the matter. Fear God and keep his commandments. For this is the duty of all mankind. For God will bring every deed into judgment, including every hidden thing, whether it's good or evil. Live your life knowing that. Keep that at the forefront of your mind when someone wrongs you and someone does bad to you and you're considering maybe getting revenge or getting them back or hurting them or whatever. You see, nail yourself to truth. Fix yourself to it. And when something else comes wrong and you realize something else, spend more time. Add another nail. It's hard work. You see, nails aren't screws. When I asked for the prop this morning, someone said, we can't find any nails. Well, screws do. I'm like, you can't hammer screws in. You screw screws in and you nail nails in. Or hammer nails in, sorry. And the difference being that a screw, you can unscrew a screw. You can take that out. It's temporary. You can remove it. But with a nail, you've got to hammer it in. It takes time. It's hard work. But once it's in, it won't move. It's fixed. It's stuck. It won't go anywhere. And I get that sound might have been horrible and might have been, oh man, I wish you'd stop doing all that banging on there. That's a horrible sound. It is, isn't it, when someone's hammering a nail in. But let me tell you, if this makes this sermon memorable, if it takes that for you to realize the importance of fixing your life, that it's immovable, not being able to go in any direction you want and do anything you want, but fixing your life, nailing it. I could talk about nailing it to the cross, but I'm not even meaning that. I'm just meaning nailing your values, your standards to the Word of God, to what God says. What would you rather be, attached or detached? It's wheels or doors in it at the moment, right? Wheels or doors, yeah? But what would you rather be? Let me give you another one, attached or detached. Because detached, if I'm getting a house, I want detached, don't I? I don't want an attached house, I really want a detached house. That's the preference, because you've not got neighbours that you have to worry about banging nails in the middle of the night and stuff like that. You don't have any of that, so I want to be detached. Attached sounds unglamorous, doesn't it? Attached, you're attached, and it can be negative and stuff like that. Would you rather be defined or shapeless? Defined or shapeless? Would you rather be loose or tight? Let me tell you, right? I'd rather be attached. I'd rather be defined, and I'd rather be tight. I'd rather be tight, because think about what those words actually mean. Think about the significance. Attached. You're attached to something. It ain't going anywhere. You can trust in it because it's staying. You know you've got security. You know it's not going anywhere. You know it's there for the foreseeable future. Foreseeable future. It's there for the permanent future. It ain't going anywhere. Would you rather be shapeless or would you rather be defined? Because all of these words, they're all synonyms. They're all metaphors for whether you want to be nailed, your life nailed, or you want to be loose to be able to do anything you want. Loose or tight? I tell you, I want to be tight with people. I want to know that they're there. I want them to know that I'm there. I want them to see in me something that they know. No matter what, he's there. He don't change. He don't change. He's, he might grow and he might get a bit better and a little bit grayer and all that kind of stuff, but he doesn't change. There's that about him that I know that doesn't change. He's always got faith and all of these kind of things. I want that. I want to be tight with people. And here's the thing, one of them leads to life. If you're nailed, one of them, or loose, one of them leads to life. One of them leads to death. A life with no meaning, or a life of purpose. Here's the thing, both of them are painful. Both of them are painful. It's hard work nailing nails in. It's hard work attaching yourself. It's hard work when the one you're attached to is taking you in a direction that you don't want to go. And I'm not on about when you're with your mates and you're like, oh, okay, they're going to go off and they're going to steal, or they're going to go off and take drugs, or they're going to go off and rob a car, or any of these kind of things. I'm not on about doing that. I'm on about being attached to the good things, to the right things. I'm on about a godly marriage. I'm on about godly values. I'm on about being there for your kids, being there for your parents, being there for your brothers and your sisters, being attached to your family. Not just going when it doesn't work out and, it didn't work out and it didn't go the way I wanted it to. Everyone's looking to be free of pain. But you see, if you choose a life of pain-free, it's the most painful life of all. If you decide, I'm going to cheat the pain, I'm going to avoid all the pain of life, I promise you it's the most painful life of all. There is pain in life as surely as the sun rises in the morning and sets in the evening. There is pain in life. And just when you think you've nailed it and you've got it onto that bit where it's just painless, and then another pain comes along, and then another challenge comes along, and you learn to deal with them, you learn to cope with them. But you only learn to do that when you're fixed and you're attached and you can't be moved. I can't kick this off. It won't actually. Yeah, well, maybe. I'll nail it back on. A life of meaning. You want a life of meaning. Here's the thing, right? The true meaning of life is truth. And truth doesn't change. Doesn't bend, it's not flexible, it's not going to be different in 20, 30 years' time. It's the same today as it's always been. And you know the things that talk about like the flaps? Here's the thing about the flaps, right? Let me tell you what the flaps are. The flaps are Hollywood. The flaps are Netflix. The flaps are the BBC and the sitcoms and all the shows that are going on. Because here's what they're all doing. I want to warn you right now about one of the things that will destroy your life. And it is the virtue signaling by Netflix, Hollywood, the BBC, all of these shows telling you how you should be living your life and what you should be doing. Let me ask you a question, right? When did you ever see a gay character in Netflix or the BBC or whatever, and they were portrayed as the idiot or the stupid one or whatever? Did you ever see that? Anyone ever seen that? Anyone ever seen someone who maybe disagrees with that and says, I don't agree with that lifestyle, I don't believe it's right, I don't believe that's a godly lifestyle, and they were portrayed as a sensible, wise person? Or were they portrayed as a bigot? Which way was it? What are they doing? Are they virtue signaling? When was the last time you saw a husband and wife and you saw them split up and they decided they were going to depart and they were going to separate, and then it was like it all worked out great and it all worked out fantastic? You see that all the time, don't you? Yeah, and it was the right thing and it was the great thing to do, and yeah, it was difficult, so I've moved on and I'm with my new partner now, and look at how wonderful that is. When did you ever see that happen in a show and it was like, that was a disaster? What did I do? I threw it all away. I should have stayed. I should have stuck with it. I should have stuck through the difficult times. I should have kept my vows. I should have done what I promised to do. When was the last time you saw an episode and they're sleeping around and they're experimenting and they go on a one-night stand, and what happens? They go out and you see them in the bar and you know what's about to happen, and then they go off and they sleep together and it's all brilliant, it's all great. They might show the odd time and it doesn't, but generally the idea is that, yeah, that's what you got to do and you got to experiment. When was the last time when you had someone and they went, no, I don't do that, and they were the cool character? When was the last time you saw that and they were the cool character? They were the sensible character. They were the wise one. When was the last time you saw a Christian in a TV program? They were the wise one. They weren't a bigot. Let me tell you, you believe in the values of God, you're not a bigot. You believe that sex is for marriage, you're not a bigot. You believe that God said that marriage is for a husband and a wife, a man and a woman, doesn't make you a bigot. You believe there aren't 52 different genders, but only 2. And God chooses your gender. Apart from the very odd situation where someone's born with a genetic defect and that needs to be dealt with, apart from that, which is the exception, not the rule. It's the exception, not the rule. If I'd have got up here and preached a generation ago and said, you know what, in a few years' time, in 20, 30 years' time, or 40 years' time, we're going to be giving sex changes to thousands and thousands of our children. Do you think I'd have been believed? There's a queue. So an article in the paper the other day, there's a queue of I forget the name of the hospital now, the sex changes they're performing on children. You see, I believe that's child abuse, and I don't believe I'm a bigot. That's not a bigoted point of view. And let me warn you as well, when you hear this phrase that people say, oh, well, each to their own, listen to the tone that people say that with. I want you to listen. When people say, oh, yeah, but you know, well, each to their own. Listen to the tone, because what has meaning is not the words that people say, it's how they say what they say and what they actually mean by what they say. And let me tell you, typically what people mean when they say, well, each to their own, what they mean is, really, it's too awkward to get into me saying that they shouldn't be doing that, and maybe it's not even my business, so I'll just leave them and let them. It doesn't mean I agree with that. The problem is that too many people think that everyone agrees with it because not many people are going around and saying that this stuff is wrong. And I'm not bigoted, and I'm not against people who would say, oh, I'm homosexual, or I'm gay, or I'm this, or I'm that, or, I used to be a man and now I'm a woman. They are still a child of God. So as far as I'm concerned, they're still welcome to come to the church, all of that kind of stuff, and love on them and all of that stuff. But I don't agree with the act. I agree with the Word of God. And the problem with bigoted is that bigoted, it gives this impression that actually you're fixed in your views because you're attached to something and you won't move. Well, yeah, I am. I'm nailed to something. Because I chose to do that. Because I found the truth and I nailed myself to the truth when I found it and I realized it was true. And I don't want to be moved from it. I tell you, the bigots are the Metropolitan Police who perform. I can't say what I want to say about what they did to a poor, young, 15-year-old girl. I heard about it yesterday and I wanted to sob. There's two elements to it that I see. I'm not black, I'm white. But I see the racial element, but I also just see a 15-year-old girl, whether she's black or white. But I also see the racial element to that as well, because I've watched Police Interceptors and all of that, and you see them pull someone over with a bit of cannabis. I've never seen them strip search someone. I've never seen that happen. They don't do that. So why would you do that to a 15-year-old girl? Horrendous. Absolutely horrendous. P&O. Seriously? I think companies should be free to make business decisions and grow the business, and sometimes you have to make tough business decisions to save the business. But that's not what that was. That was cruel. There was no compassion in that. Even if they went, listen, the business is going to fail, they could have spoke to the unions and had a chat with them and talked it through and worked something out, and because that's what you do. And here's the thing, there's a responsibility when you run a business. When you take up the position of leader or manager or owner or any of these things, there's a responsibility that comes with it. You can't just make decisions. Sometimes you've got to actually make a sacrifice yourself. We took over a business 18 months ago. We nearly didn't, because my major concern was, can I afford to pay the staff every month? And we're going to find myself in a position where I literally can't pay them. There's a choice. I used to have a house that I used to rent out as a landlord, and I knew we had families in there. Even if it didn't suit me, I couldn't just kick them out. Now, different if they're just being awkward and not paying the rent and they're trashing the place and stuff like that, then absolutely there's responsibilities on both sides. But this idea that everyone can be a landlord and own lots of houses and then just make lots of money out of it, we're talking about homes, aren't we? We're talking about where people live, aren't we? What's going on with the world? Cruel, vicious world. Absolutely greed. Without responsibility. Without compassion. And God says, when you nail yourself to me, when you fix yourself to me, you agree that you will make decisions that might cost you. You'll turn the other cheek. You know what I want to say to you is, the generation, the culture has changed so much in such a short time. But it's embedded now. And it's becoming the norm. All of these things that we're seeing are becoming the norm. And I'm warning you, do not subscribe to the ways of the world. Do not let the media transform you. Choose. Someone's going to transform you. Someone is going to transform you in your life. You can't live devoid of this world and just like go through it and not be affected. That's not possible. The people you mix with, the people you're around, the things you watch on the television, the things you listen to on the radio, all of these things, the songs you listen to, and shake it up and all that. Man, I won't embarrass myself. Whoa, that nearly got really embarrassing then. Oh man, I stopped myself. That was bad enough just what I did then, but I won't go any further. But you know what I'm on about, the lyrics, and I feel like I'm kind of, but you seriously, you know what I'm on about. The sleeping around and all of that stuff. The greed, the vulgarness, the language. It's the culture. And if you keep listening and watching that stuff, let me tell you, please, please, please switch off the soap operas. They're some of the worst things. We switched them off 20 odd years ago. I don't know what goes on in them anymore. I don't want to know what goes on in them anymore, because they are virtue signaling. Every single script is virtue signaling. And here's the thing, right? Who's choosing the virtues? Is Hollywood and the BBC and Netflix choosing your virtues, your beliefs, your values, your standards, or God? Who's choosing it? Who's choosing your values and your standards? Or you just go in, I'll just choose them myself. I've got it all. I just choose my own values and my standards. I know what's right and what's wrong. All on your own, really? Wow. Because you actually think you are, but actually what you're going on is what you've learned as you've grown up. Because you didn't grow up in a vacuum. You didn't just turn up. You didn't turn up as a blank page today to sit there and make your values and make your standards. Trust God. Trust the eternal word. Let me read the words of Solomon again just to close. Verse 11, the words of the wise are like goads. Come on, get the worship ready. Come on, hurry up. Make sure you do it well this time. Be warned, my son. Anything in addition to them. Anything in addition to them. Netflix, BBC, Hollywood, all of that. All of that. Anything in addition to them. Of making many books there is no end, but the words of the wise are like a goad. There's books upon books upon books, films upon films upon films, Netflix upon Netflix. Fat Mom was preaching a couple of months or so ago about the series that you get into, 9-10 episodes and all of that. They're infinite. They never end. They're coming out with new ones all the time. All the time. They're never ending. But the words of the wise are like goads. They're collected sayings like firmly embedded nails given by one shepherd. One shepherd. One God. Now all has been heard. Here is the conclusion of the matter. Fear God and keep his commands. For this is the duty of all mankind. For God will bring every deed into judgment, including every hidden thing, whether it is good or evil. Amen? Amen.